Hello and welcome to the Beading Sagas. Well, welcome back. I'm going to be working once again on the orange jacket, but also I'm going to do some work on that aqua one right in the back there.
It's perfect. Perfect, perfect, perfect. Perfect jacket.
So this is the third video I'm making about the orange beaded jacket. In the first one, I made the jacket out of 3 layers of netting. Netting is like a really robust version of tulle. It's not floaty at all. It carries the weight of beads really well, but I was still going to use a lot of beads, so I made it 3 layers. And then I started to bead it. And this is just the first layer. So it's adding a little bit of weight and just testing how everything will look. And then in the second video, I divided up all the bigger beads and started applying them. So you just stitch on each bead twice and then you go on to the next bead. So it is a long process. And this is a Christian Dior collection from 15 years ago. And yeah, I just love those big, bold, how you can see each individual bead. So yeah, my application of my beads sort of took that into account. And I was like, I don't want it to just look like one big nothing. I also decided to take out the beads that were figurative, like the skulls and the bows. They're recognizably something. And I just stuck to the square, round and pyramid shaped beads that are just, so they're beautiful shapes that cast beautiful light. And sort of, yeah, the eye focuses on the shape and the slight gradations in color. So that was my focus here. And I'm just applying the beads. You have to sort of do big bead, small bead, big bead, small bead, so that the weight, the jacket can carry all the weight in a healthy way, so the whole jacket will age well. So that was the second video, but as you can see, there's still big gaps that I need to fill in. I just ran out of time, so that's all I could put in, before I had to stop and edit the video. So here we are in our third video, and yeah, there's still lots to do. I do have some really expensive big beads that I end up deciding not to use, but because I've still got some other ones to use. So yeah, here we are, and the sleeves still very much need a lot done to them. And at this point, I was like, actually, I have these long bugle beads. If you've seen my yellow flower jacket, I've got some green long bugle beads, glass bugle beads in that I use as stems on some of the flowers. Front here, you see how there's some small flowers that are a lot taller than the others. That's because I've got these bugle beads, they're glass, and yeah, I just thought they would make perfect stems. I originally bought the orange ones for this Comme des Garçons inspired floral jacket in sort of apricots, oranges and coral colours. It's going to be fabulous. But yeah, obviously I haven't got around to it yet. And that's what I originally bought them for. But I think I could probably get away with using just half of them in the floral jacket and then using half of them in this orange jacket, and it would just make it look so much more like those paintings and that Dior collection inspired by those paintings. So I started using them, and oh my goodness, they look so good. They look so incredibly amazing. They just draw the eye in because everything was sort of round before, apart from the large round sequins that I folded in half. They sort of drew the eye up a little bit, but these long, they look like a drawing a line or a brush stroke, and they're just so perfect, like based on those paintings and that Dior collection with Lesage embellishment on it. They just make it look so much more like that, and so artistic and very made in Paris, if you get what I mean. And yeah, so obviously you have to work as much on the front as you do on the back, because you want the weight. I store my jackets in a box. If you're doing, museum grade work, you should store your work flat in a box, but you know, most people store their jackets on coat hangers. So if you do that, you have to have the same amount of weight on the front and the back so that it ages well. And even if it's lying in a box, it's still going to be worn either by a person or a mannequin, in which case you really do need equal weight on the front and the back and on the left side as the right side. So yeah, you have to keep remembering, because I always get focused on one bit and trying to get that right. And because you have to bead, you can't just bead the whole section at once. You have to bead in layers. It's easier to remember what you're doing if you focus on one area, but for the balance of the jacket to be right, it's best to sort of thread the whole work over the piece. And these are the paintings that I'm talking of, the Gustave, and the one on the left is the Dior collection, from the Dior collection. They sort of extrapolated, but I think it started with this, and then yeah, everything else sort of was snailed out, like everything in Paris sort of snails out. And yeah, I thought it was really cool. Anyway, so here is my jacket, and I'm just, again, slowly adding more beads to it. And using those long bugle beads was such a good idea. It gives more space between, it gives air, like, so you don't have to have the round beads as close together, and you can fill whole areas with the long bugle beads, sort of sketching in or drawing paint strokes in. It's just, it's such a good mix. So yeah, now I'm sort of looking at all the gaps that you can see the gaps, and I don't inherently dislike gaps. I think they're interesting, and it shows you all the layers beneath. It allows the person looking at it to see the mechanics of how it was made, and I think that's really interesting. But if you leave big gaps in something as heavy as this, that those blank bits are liable to tear, like they're the most likely bits to tear. And also, if you think about it, that's kind of where your bra strap would be, or where you poke it with a coat hanger. So those are going to be weak points. So yeah, you really do, you can't leave them too gappy. But yeah, I mean, they look interesting. So you sort of have to decide, what can I leave that looks interesting, that won't be a vulnerability, it won't be a fragile point, and what do I have to work on, and what can I leave? So I like to sort of, obviously, I mean, I don't have 100 years to work on one jacket. That would be cool though. But yeah, here's a little bit of a close-up so you can see just how many different things there are in there. And you can't just do all random different things, otherwise there's no theme and the eye just gets confused and it does not know what to follow. So you sort of have to do a thread of bugle beads, then a thread of really solid orange ones, then a thread of sort of crystal cut glass that's transparent, then some seed beads, those tiny little runs of round ones. So yeah, and this is under the arm. The bugle beads are just amazing. You have to be very, very careful about how you situate them. Like, you can't put them in the inside of your arm. Like, they can't be anywhere where the jacket will actually need to bend or anything like that. And this is me just putting those beads. When you buy those beads, they're on a string, so it looks kind of like a necklace, but they're actually just crystal cut glass beads. And yeah, I was going to put them on this. I was still really, really tempted to put them on this jacket, but I just think I'll save them for a tweed jacket where I do just a sort of quite minimal beaded trim, but using very, very luxurious beads like pearls and those crystal cut glass ones. So I think I'll save them for that because they're just a little bit big, a little bit too heavy and ostentatious. I wanted this jacket to be like, there are some really expensive beads in this jacket, but I wanted it to not have anything that stands out. later on you'll see some of my really, really standout beads, because I do pick out a few of the least look at me beads, and I'm going to put them in here. But yeah, I just wanted it to be cohesive work. Like if you look closely at it, then you'll find, oh my gosh, that one must have been expensive. That one is you know, a kind of bead that you'd find in a hobby store, but it's used in a really intelligent, different way. So yeah, I wanted it to, nothing to be too eye-catching, so that you, when you look at it, you think of it as one piece, one artwork, rather than a collection of expensive beads or something like that. So I sort of kept out some beads just because they were too eye-catching. Some of these glass beads, oh my goodness, they're so pretty. But I love the juxtaposition of these cheap kids' toy beads mixed in with the cut glass ones and the really, really rare, hard to find ones. And as you can see, I just folded up the hem and the cuffs so that you can get a better idea of what the finished garment is going to be like. It's also a little easier to see the gaps. So yeah, there's still quite it's really solid, but there's still a few pieces where, I don't know, I just feel like, well, not here, obviously, that's pretty solidly covered. But if you compare it to the sleeves, I think I do like that the elbows and the crook of the arm, I like them not having as much beading, because obviously you're going to bend your arms. But I love the cuffs and the shoulders having a lot of beading. So yeah, the problem with that is it's only 3 layers, and I feel like these beads are, because there's just so many of them, it's really quite heavy. And I love the way I filled in the top here. It's really beautiful. So I'm thinking about making another jacket out of 2 more layers of the net, so 2 more structural layers, and adding it inside. But I'm not sure. That isn't a lot of work, and I'm not sure, given that I'm really not going to wear this as an everyday jacket. It's just a specialist jacket. It's going to have its own box. It's going to be in a little cloud of tissue paper. But yeah, I mean, if you were going to wear it a lot, it would need another structural layer inside before I add the lining. So, and then I had to go and do some other videos for the teal and aqua month. If I was making it for a client, oh my God, they would have to be so rich, because there's so much work in this. Just the amount of man hours or person hours in this is just off the charts. But yeah, if I was making it for someone who was, you know, going to pay for what it's actually worth, then I would definitely add another 2 layers in it. Like I'd add another structural layer, and I think I'd even do a short sleeve just to help support the weight of those shoulders and the top of the sleeves. There's a lot of weight in beads there, and they would sit better if there was another jacket inside it. Oh, these are just some Armani Privé fully beaded looks. That one on this one here, these are beads. They're bugle beads, just standard length, and these are the long bugle beads like the ones I've been using. And this is it in late afternoon. It just looks so completely different. And to me, when there's less light in the less natural light, you can see the dark beads look much grayer and blacker, and the light beads look, the plastic beads look much lighter. It's just so amazing. And to me, it looks much more like the paintings when it's like that, because you can see all the difference between them. Anyway, and at this point, so I've just left it on the mannequin because I know I should add another 2 layers of netting, like make a whole nother jacket and put it inside that one, but it's too much work. So I got out my really, really special beads, and I've got these 3. They are unique and they're amazing, but I think they'll pass. They're I mean, the other ones in the boxes that I've left in the boxes are singular. I got out my my glass bok choys because they're gorgeous. And yeah, see, if you can see the other ones, these are handmade, hand-blown beads, and each one is incredibly unique. They're so special, these beads. I just keep them in boxes for now. But these three, I think I will use on this orange one, just because, you know, I do want to use some of them up, and it makes me happy to know that they're in there, even if they don't, you know, stand out so much. Well, November is aqua and teal month, so I'm going to go work on them, but I will put those 3 beads in here and do a little bit more on the back of each sleeve, and then yeah, I'll come back to do the top and tail of this video. Oh, bless. Well, anyway, so the next thing I did was make this aqua jacket from the tweed. Is from Linton Tweed. I bought it years ago, and I finally made it up into a jacket. And I've been getting quite a few questions about the structural layer of the jackets that I make. So I was going to make a video about that. And I was like, okay, that won't take long. So I'll just do a little bit, get started on this beading. And so I got out the aqua bows. And yeah, I don't know, I felt like they weren't heavy enough because this is a sort of winter weight tweed. It's quite heavy and bulky. I've tried to make the jacket look as weightless as possible, but it still is actually physically quite bulky and heavy. So yeah, these are plastic beads, these bows, and they're quite light. So I thought maybe I'll do bow, like alternate between glass bead, because glass is heavy, and then a bow. And I thought, no, that won't look good. So then I was like, maybe I'll just do the glass beads. And so I started doing that, and every second, because this tweed is sort of little checker squares, so every second square I did as a glass bead. And when I was making the jacket, I used a beige thread, and it worked when I was making the jacket, but as I was beading this with beige thread, because it's a see-through glass, clear glass, it looked kind of grimy. So yeah. And I didn't like every second a square being missed. I thought it looked kind of odd. So then I got out some extra beads, and I was like, well, I wasn't sure that I had enough of these particular round clear beads to do every square. So I was like, well, maybe every second one I'll do with a little plastic bead or a different type of glass bead. And then, you know, that way I'll have enough, and it'll also have more weight, and each little square will be filled. But I sort of placed every second bead in, and it didn't look good. So I decided I'm just going to cut out the beads that I've done, the 2 rows of beads that I've done, and I'll find some other glass beads in white and clear. And yeah, so I'll do every second bead in the round clear glass one, and then every other one I'll do either a smaller glass bead or something like that. So here we go. I started to do it, and I really like this look. Oddly enough, I don't think I've added enough weight still, but I've kind of committed to this style, and I do think it's really beautiful. It's very, very, very subtle, but I don't mind that. It is an extreme amount of work for not much visual impact unless you know exactly what you're looking for. But again, I don't mind that, because I mean, the only people who are going to bug me are people who are going to understand how much work there is involved. The rest won't even notice the beads, and that's absolutely fine with me. I'm also curious about how this style of beading ages. So, you know, a lot of the work I do is just a lab experiment. So I just kept going, and I think I stopped to film here, and I'd done one whole, like when you buy those small round beads, clear glass beads, there's 105 per thing that you buy. So I did one whole one. See here, they're sort of tied in a big loop. That's 105 beads. So I did a whole one of those. So there's 105 beads plus 105 of the other things. So I've only done about 210 beads. And then I did a second one. So at this point, there's about 420 beads on there. That's all. I've done the front right hand side and the outer sleeve, not the undersleeve, of the right hand side as well. And yeah, it takes so long. And at this point I was like, is it worth it? I mean, yeah, I could just like unpick it and do something heavier, but I don't know, I don't have any plain tweed jackets with just, the chain on the inside, and this kind of looks like it's a plain tweed jacket, so it appeals to me for that reason. But also, it's not really coming across in the footage, I don't feel, but in real life you can see them because there's obviously the movement, and when you're out in direct sunlight it's much easier for the light to catch it. So I am going to go ahead and do this whole thing. It's not going to be the most fascinating video, so I won't film it. Once I finished, I'll show it to you. But yeah, I've decided I am going to, here you go, I cut another one. So yeah, I've got another 105 beads to go, but I decided to press pause on that one, and I still hadn't sewn those 3 expensive unique beads into this one. So I did that, and I realized I hadn't shown you what the inside looks like too. So it's just loads of threads over and over the top of each other. I don't cut down the end threads. Like I tie the thread in, then I do all the beading work, then I tie the thread off. I leave the threads long at the end because it just helps the work to not undo over years and years of wear. So that's why it might look a little messy, but given how many beads I've applied, it's actually quite neat on the inside. And I've decided, yes, I am going to buy more orange netting and make that double layer, essentially make another full jacket, slip that inside, stitch them together, then I'll make the lining. So the vast majority of the beading's done. I'll do a tiny bit more beads. When I stitch the 2 layers together, I'll add a few beads just so that instead of just doing plain stitches. And then this one will be done. I've pinned up the cuffs and the bottom of this one so that you can sort of see what it's going to look like. But it's kind of finished now. The 3 are in the top sort of left there, and I decided these are the last 3 jackets I did, so I thought I'd get them out for reference. The pendulum is swinging back and forth. So this was the one that I beaded. I made this jacket years ago, and I sort of just did a light smattering of beading on that one, and at the time I was like, this is so subtle. And yeah, the next jacket I went to the opposite extreme with the orange one. I was like, all the beads in the world, it's going to be so over the top. And now I'm working on this one at the back there, and yeah, you really can't tell that it's got any beads on it at all unless you know what you're looking for. Like I can see them, but I'm pretty sure most people would not be able to see them. And I don't know, I kind of like that about it. It's really, really subtle. So yeah, I think the 3 of them are definitely different. Oh, and because I haven't wasted enough time beading, I also decided finally decided what I'm going to do for my Egyptian one, and I've mixed the beads. So I've got these champagne coloured beads, and I've been saving them for something, and I assumed I'd use them on light coloured fabric, but yeah, I've decided I'm going to use them on this Egyptian one, I think. And so there's the gold ones that are, for reference, these are the beads that I'm using at the moment, the 10mm ones. And yeah, but because those ones I'm going to use on the Egyptian one are coloured, you'll actually be able to see them, whereas these ones, they are very, very subtle. My camera didn't want to focus on them at all. So I think once I make them here, I've sort of put a few of them on the tweed. You will actually be able to see them. But I'm also looking forward to doing a lot of detailed work and not using big obvious beads, just doing small beads. It does take a lot more time, but it just makes me so happy when I do really detailed, subtle beading. It just looks, I mean, I love that bling orange jacket. It's the most fabulous use of orange beads I could ever have imagined myself doing. So I'm really, really happy with the way that that one turned out. And using those extra long bugle beads, the long ones that give it the painterly strokes, oh, I love it. And if you haven't seen the fashion documentary, Diana Vreeland, The I Must Travel, it's such a good fashion documentary. I was watching a couple of different fashion documentaries as I was beading this one that I'm working on, that aqua one at the back that I'm working on at the moment. And yeah, because I'm sort of, oh, and I still haven't hand stitched in the silk lining for that one either. So yeah, loads of work to do on each of these actually, because the one I finished first still needs hand-stitched lining. The orange one needs a whole new second jacket made and inserted inside it. And then the one at the back there, I've only done about a third or a quarter of the beading on that, and I have to finish the whole of the rest in exactly the same way as I've done the first part. So I do have my work cut out for me, but I also know exactly what I have to do. So that's good. I think the next video you'll see from me will be Sunday's episode where I make the Gucci tweed up into a jacket. Then I'll do the one on the structural layer, and I'll hopefully show you this finished one as well. So thank you very much for watching. It's been a little bit chaotic, these beading sagas, but I'm getting there eventually, and I'm learning a lot along the way. So I am going to, actually, it's time for me to have a little bit of a sleep. But the next thing I'll do sewing-wise gosh, I thought I'd be able to work on one of these before I started the Gucci jacket. But I'm going to have to start that Gucci tweeds to get that jacket made in time. So yeah, that's the next thing I will be doing. Anyway, thanks again for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and happy sewing.